And welcome back to the Popcorn Conspiracy. You're on centralcoastradio.com, and now we're going to take a look at one of the big releases of this year and one of the films that I'm most excited about, Fast X. Yes, that little franchise that began about a group of street racers involved in crime. Fast and Furious is now out to film number 10, or film number 11 if you include Hobbs and Shaw in there as well, one of the spin-off films. But this time around, the film is directed by Louis Leterrier, who came into this film at the last moment. There was another director who was supposed to do this film, but Louis Leterrier came in at the last moment. Of course, someone who is no stranger to action because he directed the two Transporter films with Jason Statham, and also Clash of the Titans, just to name a few films. But this film starts off with Dom, Vin Diesel, Mia, Jordana Brewster, and Letty, of course, played by Michelle Rodriguez, all kind of safe and sound. They're back at the Toretto household. They're even being visited by their grandmother, Abella, played by Rita Moreno. And everything seems nice and quiet. But then all of a sudden they are interrupted by a past enemy. Cypher, played by Charlize Theron, shows up bleeding and warning Dom that she has just met the devil. Now, the devil that she is referring to is Dante, played by Jason Momoa, who just happens to be the son of Hernan Reyes. Now, if you remember your Fast and Furious folklore, Hernan Reyes was the drug kingpin that Dom and his family took on in Fast 5. Well, it turns out that his son is back and wants vengeance, and that pretty much starts off the entire storyline of this one around. Also, adding to that as well is that Mr. Nobody, played by Kurt Russell, is nowhere to be seen in this film. And as a result, his 2IC, Ames, played by Alan Richardson, suddenly wants Dom and his family arrested. Now, the only thing stopping that from happening is Tess, played by Brie Larson. But even that is soon put to the test, and they are back on the wanted list. So, Lee, it's a pretty big storyline, and of course this is the start of the final trilogy. What did you think of Fast 10?
There was a lot of things I liked about the film. Firstly, I loved how they introduced Jason Momoa's character, Dante, by intercutting footage from Fast 5. And, yeah, so you get a review of some of that story. But then, of course, you see Dante coming into the story. It was very cleverly done. If you didn't know it had been intercut, if you hadn't seen that movie before and you'd only seen this one, you wouldn't know. It's only because we've seen that movie and we love those movies that you're like, hang on, that wasn't in that. And, of course, this character's being introduced now. The other thing, I guess, is that having scenes from Fast 5 brings Paul Walker back to the big screen, and it's just lovely to have that memory of him, and also very sad because you know that he's no longer with us in real life, so it's very respectful to him, I think, to involve him in this movie in that way. I guess there's no mention of where he and the kids are for Fast 10, because within the movie, it's alluded that he's still a family man, he's still around, but there was nothing in this film to kind of say where he is, I don't think.
Yeah, and I didn't really buy the little bit at the start because Mia was there and it was supposed to be the whole Toretto family, including the grandmother, all together, and there was like a vacant seat where you guessed that Brian and the kids were supposed to be sitting, but there was no excuse ever given for why he hadn't showed up. And then later on, I think Mia made some reference about, he's got the kids in safety, but it's like, why wasn't he there at the original Toretto get-together, family get-together? It seemed a bit weird, so...
So I guess it's hard for, this is a family in real life. Like, all the actors are like family. They hang out together in real life, and would be very, very hard for them, to want to go down that path of maybe explaining, why he's not there, or to give another reason other than, why he actually isn't there. So I respect that. It just is a little bit noticeable. But, I think in fairness to them, your heart goes out to them and you think that's okay. We can accept it as it is in this storyline.
Yeah.
In this movie, of course, there's loads of action as you would expect. There's explosions, fights, car chases. There's, planes and trucks as you would expect. You name it, they've got it. And while a lot of the action scenes are unbelievable for a real life situation, you are so drawn in and hoping for the good guys to win and being in awe of all the stunts. I actually think, I've been thinking about this a lot lately, that I don't really see a lot of action scenes being nominated in prestigious awards such as the Oscars. And, the amount of choreography and practicing stunts and putting your life on the line for a movie, really, I think there should be categories where you can nominate the choreographers, the actors, the stunt person, for what they've actually achieved. This is a high level of danger that they put themselves in to pull off these stunts, and I just don't see it being acknowledged really at a high level.
Even the guys that design the stunts, like, exactly. We sit back and watch, like, Vin Diesel drive a car off a damn wall, but there's someone out there who's designed that stunt. Whether it's done for real or done in CGI, it still has to be designed. And like you said, like, I really think off the back of what happened recently with the Alec Baldwin case, it kind of highlighted how dangerous filmmaking can still be. And if you watch enough films every year, you will see tributes paid to stunt people and people like that have unfortunately passed away while working on a film. It's still a very, very dangerous art, and credit at least needs to be paid to those directors and those that design those stunts, and of course the stunt people themselves. And if you're someone like Tom Cruise that does his own stunts, then you deserve to be recognized for that as well. Like, a lot of the guys in this franchise do their own stunts. Michelle Rodriguez and Charlize Theron did their fight sequence in this film. Like, and as little as that looks, like, I'm not going to give too much away about the fight sequence, but there's one part in that where Michelle Rodriguez lands very, very hard on a table on her back. Well, 1 centimeter wrong there, and she's a paraplegic. Like, it's not harsh to say that, because if something goes wrong, then someone's going to get hurt. So yeah, they do deserve credit.
Yeah, I think we're past the time really of thinking big blockbusters are just, you sit there and eat your popcorn and you just enjoy it. We need to acknowledge what they're achieving and how hard it is to achieve what they achieve.
Yeah.
I'll stop banging on about that. It's just something that's been on my mind lately. And I really think they deserve respect for what they're doing. This movie, of course, carries on strong themes of loyalty to family and friends, strong faith in God. The thing that's hard to cope with is at the end, it's unresolved. There are unresolved storylines in readiness for final 2 films, as this is a final trilogy. So you get to the end and you're like, oh, but I don't know what happened here. We didn't see what happened here. And there's numerous storylines still to be played out.
With a couple of characters in peril as well. So, yeah.
So it's not a bad thing. It just leaves you hanging on the edge, waiting, of course, for the next one. And it's always a long wait when you're keen to see that resolved.
Yeah.
But it also gives you that bit of, I can't wait for the next one.
It kind of felt like Lord of the Rings, like where it wasn't a resolved storyline. It was just a bang, it cuts here, straight into the credits. So, yeah, look, what I liked about this one was it didn't go over the top. Like, I love the Fast and Furious series. It's probably my favorite franchise of films. But even I thought that going into space and stuff like that was going too far for this franchise. So I was kind of glad that they pulled it back. There's a lot more car chases in this one. It's back to Dom and his family in cars. And for some of them, and I won't give too much away here, but for some of them, they even have that taken away from them because the money and everything that the family have had all disappears. So you have, is it 3 or 4 characters suddenly wandering around with no tech, no cars, no nothing. So I really, really liked that it was back to basics. And like I say that, but like there's still some very elaborate stunts here. It's just no going into space or anything like that. To me, the best set piece in this film was the car chase through Rome, which a lot of you will have already seen parts of in the trailer. To me, that was the masterpiece of this film, was just how remarkable that sequence was and how it looked. The other person that I think needs a lot of credit here is Jason Momoa. He, to me, is the most interesting screen bad guy that we've ever seen since Heath Ledger's Joker. He just has a psychopathic thing around him. I love when he does those little things that he's brought to the character as well, when he goes, "Oh, Dominic," and it's just like, there's a lot of people out there I know who just see Jason Momoa as the brawn, like in the films that he does, but this really does show that he has a great sense of characterization. He ad-libbed a lot of the stuff that his character said in this as well. They basically just said to him, "You're a psychopath, this is what your character is about," and he just completely ran with it, and he really, really impressed me. I was a little bit skeptical when I first heard that he was going to be the villain in this, just because I'm so used to seeing Jason Momoa as the hero now. Like, even in Game of Thrones, where at the start his character was supposed to be a villain, I always saw him as a little bit of a hero, just sticking up and rising up for his people and his family. So I wasn't sure how I would go about seeing him play the villain here, but he does that really, really well, I thought.
He does. He reminds you of the Joker, really, from the DC world. And his mannerisms are great. Like, he pulls off one-liners.
Yep.
You hate what he's doing as a character, but you kind of smile and giggle at some of the things he does and says. Oh, it's a little bit Weekend at Bernie's for a little moment there. That was really freaky. There's some freaky things going on, but you're also like laughing because you're like, I can't believe this man. Like, yeah, he brings a lot to this film. You've got all the fantastic actors that have that know this series back to front, and their characters are well formed and you love them because you've already connected with them. But this character coming in is just gold.
Yeah, and the characterization is there again. Like, this is an action film, but there's a lot of characterization in there. You've already seen one of the classic lines in the trailer that's delivered this time around when Jason Statham turns around when he's asked what are you going to do, and he says, "Well, I'm just going to go dig some graves." It's like, it's classic the way that that's been written, and I think that's one of the things I've loved about this franchise so much is, yes, it's a lot of action, but there's always characterization in there, and Vin Diesel as a producer has always made sure that these films keep to the two important things, family and faith. That's always been there, and I think it'll always be there while he's there. So, look, I don't think this is the best Fast and Furious film. I think Fast 5 is still my favorite of all time, but this is a worthy induction into the Fast and Furious franchise, and I can't wait to see where it's going to go next. What are you going to give this one out of 5?
I'm going to give it 4 out of 5.
Yeah, I'm giving this one 3.5 out of 5. I really, really did like it, and I cannot wait to see where it's going to go next. So Lee's given it 4. I've given it 3.5 out of 5. It's showing in every cinema at the moment, so look up your local cinema guide and you'll see that it's showing near you right now. You're listening to The Popcorn Conspiracy on centralcoastradio.com.